Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today we are joined by Nate Burke, who is the CMO of AI. So welcome, Nate. Why don't you start by just telling us a bit about Seven?
AI is using AI agents to help in security investigations. So in security operations, when you think about cybersecurity, you're probably thinking the Matrix, you're thinking the hacker in the hoodie, you're thinking all these like really complex, high-tech sorts of things. But in the reality, a lot of people end up spending a lot of time doing very manual work. An alert comes in from a thing and that person has to go bounce from screen to screen and try to figure out, is this real or is it a false positive? Multiply that by how many thousands of times that happens a day, and you get to the reality of how much time people spend on just tracking down alerts and figuring out, is this something I should spend time on? And what we're doing is we're taking that manual repetitive work, shifting it to AI agents so that people can focus on the things that people do better than machines.
Okay, very succinct summary there. I love it. And so who do you guys usually serve the best? Like, who do you find is the best client?
Good question. So we launched the company on February 5th. I could tell you
This year?
yes, of this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it hasn't been very long. But I will tell you, without a gigantic sample size, because it's only been a few months, there's really two buckets. There's the smaller team. You've got a security team of a handful of people, and you outsource it to like a managed provider. And so then you're saying like, listen, I hand all of my alerts off to someone else. I pay them a ton of money. I'm not happy with what I get back. I get too much back to even investigate it myself. I'm overloaded with just a small team. On the other end, you have a very large company with like 200,000 employees globally, and they have a large internal security team, and they're still having the same problem where they just can't throw enough people at it, and they know that they're wasting a lot of their people's time. And so it's those smaller companies that can't hire enough people. It's those larger companies that have a lot of people but don't want to waste their time. So it's really both of those.
Okay, got it. Are you creating multiple agents that do multiple different things, or are you finding that people are gravitating towards one or two solutions more so than the other?
The idea is that we've built all of these very small purpose-built agents that just do one thing and that's it, right? So for example, we have one agent that its entire purpose in life is to determine whether a given URL is malicious. That's it. That's all it does. And so for us, an agent it's a small piece of an LLM in the cloud. It has a mission and it has access to tools to be able to form a conclusion. So in that one I just gave you, it would have access to a tool like a VirusTotal or something like that to look up the reputation of a URL, and that's all it does. And then another agent does something else. So we have all of these very small purpose-built agents that together can look at a different use case and perform a full investigation. So the idea is for it to be as small as possible. And the reason for that is the smaller they are, the more guardrails you put around them, the lower the probability of them having to hallucinate. The idea there is if you only have one task, you don't need to make up an answer that sounds convincing. And if you have very like rigid structure around what you actually do, there's no reason to. And so when we're talking about in cybersecurity, there's a lot of very specific steps that you would go through in a course of an investigation. So we have agents that are very small in that string of an investigation so that they do one thing and do it well and do it fast to come to that conclusion very quickly.
I see. And is your background in the security space, or did you guys sort of see a gap in the market and decide that you could provide a solution to it, or like what was the sort of inception of the company around it? I don't know if you're involved in that.
Yep. So for me personally, this is either my fifth or sixth, depending on how you count it, cybersecurity startup. So I've done a lot of these. And the founders of the company, they were the former founders of Cybereason, which was one of the early EDR companies. And when they left Cybereason a couple of years ago, they got a $36 million seed round from Greylock. And that was before deciding what they wanted to do. And then basically, these are guys that spend a lot of time in like the intelligence community in Israel. This AI thing, is this like just a marketing thing or is this for real? And what they started to do is say, all right, what are the bad guys going to do? So instead of like trying to come up with a product, if they're going to be able to leverage AI, and it was even before like the AI agent term was a thing, then what is it going to look like for organizations trying to defend their own data? And the idea was, okay, China's a little bit ahead, Russia's a little bit behind because they're dealing with some other stuff. But what they're doing in China means that if we look at the problem that we're seeing in cybersecurity today, which is people are just overwhelmed by the amount of alerts they're getting from their systems, and there's no way they can keep up. Well, if you multiply that by 3 or 10 or 100, what's going to happen? Like, there's just no way you can solve it with people. And then the thought was, all right, if the bad guys are going to increase their attacks exponentially using AI, is there an opportunity to use AI in another way that is able to solve that capacity problem of people so that not only can you catch up to what is inevitably going to happen, but if it's a total transformation in the entire infrastructure of how you defend, it is something where in theory you can actually get ahead. And so at that very super high level, it was okay, good idea. Can it work? And then they took 10 people, 10 weeks to build an MVP. And when I joined the company in September, our plan was to launch the company in like June or July of this year. By December, we decided there's absolutely no reason to wait. And so we launched the company months early, which I've never heard of. And it was a scramble to get everything ready to launch. But everything is just moving so fast in AI that there was just no reason to wait. And that I think it would have took a year, 2 years in the past to build what we did in just a few months. And it was, let's just get this thing out the door. And so since then, it's just been a mad rush to get out there into the market, which is fun. It's crazy, but it's fun.
Fun is certainly a way that you could describe it. I'm
That's right.
sure there were fun moments. So speaking of that, since launch, what do you think have been some of the most interesting challenges that you guys have faced and overcome?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them. One is I think there's a market challenge, which is there's this new thing out there called AI, and I'm interested in what it is, and I want to try it out. So I think in cybersecurity in the past, it's been the difficult part is just convincing someone that your product can solve their problem, and then once you get that part done, the rest is easy because that's the hard part. Because if I can probably go a full year without ever paying for a meal because every vendor is calling me every day and everyone's trying to knock down my door. It's a little bit different now in the world of AI because I think everyone realizes that AI is inevitable as something that they can use to help them in security. But I think someone showing interest in the early days, whereas before you might be like, oh my God, let me just jump on this. They're going to buy. Now I think there's just so much interest in just trying to understand what this thing is that
Mm,
you can spend a lot of time with someone that, isn't really ready yet. Right. So it's just something that I've never seen before, but it makes a lot of sense because I can put myself in those shoes too. Like think of how many AI tools you've tried out in your personal life. I mean, if you're like me, it's a lot. Even if
mhm.
it's something where I did a 3-day trial and I was never going to buy the thing, I was just playing around, right? So I think we're in this phase right now where everyone is willing to just play around and try this new thing because everyone's trying to learn. And I think that's great. But as a company, you got to make sure that you're prioritizing and making sure that someone that gives you feedback on your product is something where like this is going to be a benefit for everybody, right? So it's just a different part of the equation that only has recently happened just because of how many tools there are, how many new things people want to learn, and it's just like the ground is moving from under us at the same time. So the first is just like really prioritization and making sure that as a very young and small company that you're doing the right things and not get distracted. And I think that's the thing for every startup. So that's the first. But then I think the second thing that was really interesting that we learned is just around, I think the biggest change that AI is making is it's changing people's expectations. And what I mean by that is like we can do a full POC with a customer in like 24 hours because it's just that easy to get up and running because everything is just like an API connection. And I think we're now getting to a point where it used to be you would expect a 6-month deployment and that just doesn't happen anymore. And now you expect pricing to be based on the value you're getting, where it used to be a license of software. And I think just everything is changing our expectation of the way we buy software, the way we use it, the benefit we get, how we can measure it. And that's all changing so fast. I think that's the biggest change that AI is bringing is just all of the expectations we brought with us on how we work, how we buy things, and how we value them is all changing within months.
Right, and keeping up with that. Those are some very good points. And one I've not heard before, sort of people getting on calls and maybe quote wasting time just to find out more information and learn about this big scary AI thing and see if it's a fit. That's really good insight, and I can see how that's definitely a thing. As an aside, then you mentioned you use lots of AI tools. What
Yes.
what would be your favorite AI tool? I mean, obviously, other than ChatGPT or the obvious.
Okay. Well, it's not my favorite because it's the best, but it's my favorite because it's the most fun to figure out why it's not working is VO3, right? So
Okay.
the video creation engine that is part of like the Google Ultra plan, where it's only 8-second clips at a time. And so I mentioned hallucination earlier, but in the same realm, like the same prompt twice gets you completely different results. And then trying to build a video where you have character continuity, it's really hard, but it's fun, right? And so like just designing a prompt to be able to get an 8-second video and trying to string several 8-second videos together to get like a 3-minute video, it's a fun little challenge. It's starting to get a little bit better, but it's really, really difficult. But it's fun to see, like, just imagine going back 5 years and saying, if I put a paragraph of text together, I could get a full video that looks completely realistic with audio and it
Yeah.
shows up in like a minute. Like that, it wouldn't even be possible. And now you can just do it all day if you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember whatever a few months ago or when it came out, seeing people create these Google VO videos. It was like magic. And you're describing the process now, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's just what you do. That's just a thing now. But just a month ago, it was like a complete paradigm shift. Oh my God, the world is
And
going to
now you're used to it.
change. What's real? What's not real? Movies going to change. Content creators are going to all go bankrupt. What's going to and now it's just, yeah, it's just part of everyday life. It's just normal.
Yeah,
So
but I
it's
also think
interesting
too,
how we did
though,
that.
that just from the like marketing and creative perspective, my big takeaway on this is that there's now going to be a premium value placed on something that is high quality and different. And when we
Mm,
were first joining the call, you were like mentioning how my video is in black and white, and I said one of the reasons that we do that is it just looks so different and it stands out. And I think you're just seeing so much of the same where it takes no incremental effort to put out 15 blog posts a day that are all the same, but then doing something that is unique, that is personalized, that is better, that is high quality, that is something that will stand out now just in a sea of noise and sameness. So doing something that is different, that isn't just throwing more articles out there that all look and sound the same, like I think there's a big opportunity there too.
yeah, 100%. And so, Nate, I would be remiss if I had a CMO on here and I didn't ask some marketing questions.
But
How are you guys currently approaching acquiring clients?
yeah, a couple different ways. So first is instead of like jumping right in and doing the same old funnel of, do all this demand gen activities and you get a huge number of leads and then some percentage of them are actually real and then you hand them off to, like, I think that's been fundamentally broken forever. And so I'm in a luxury position where we've got founders and investors with early days. It's been much more like personal connections than it has been just trying to do cold outreach in the same old way that you would do it in the past. The second thing that's worked really well for us is, and I'll mention two of them and I'll move on. One is in person, very small events that are super high quality. Up until the end of last year, I had never in my life had sushi. It just doesn't seem like something, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, we have fire and I think that works pretty well. And so I just never got into it. And so the first time I ever had sushi was we did an omakase experience thing and it was like amazing. So I went from 0 to like 100 on the sushi meter. But we do these small events where it's not a sales pitch. It's more of a, we just go to a city, and we've done them in Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, San Francisco. We're doing another one in a couple of weeks where we just get together with like 20 security people and just all get together. And it's not a sales pitch. There's no speaking anything, but just by virtue of being in the room with these people, we talk like human beings, and it's actually turned into some people saying like, I actually am looking to solve this problem that you solve. So really small things that are more human have been great. And then the last one I'll mention is our podcast. And that was completely insane to me. 5 years ago, if you try to get a chief information security officer on a podcast or to do a case study, good luck. It's just not happening. When we started the company before we launched, we had a bunch of people that we just all know through our network. And we were like, what could we do together? Could you refer us to someone, or I don't know, do a podcast episode? And I just said that as a throwaway because I knew no one was going to say yes. And they all said yes. And the problem was we didn't have a podcast. So we had to come up with one. And now we've released 5 episodes now, something like that. And that has just been a lot of fun. Again, just conversations with CISOs. And like now we've got people asking us to be on it. And so it went from nothing that existed to now, something we're going to Dallas next week and shooting 3 episodes. And that has just been like completely unexpected. Other people are then referring their friends. And a huge percentage of the people we talk to, unsurprisingly, because we're talking about AI and security, are people that were really interested in what we're doing. And most of them have become customers. So that is something like, it's not going to scale, but the percentage is absurd.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've sort of found the same thing, to be quite
Yeah.
honest with you. It's like the perfect engine because we get content, you get content, we're able to talk in a non-salesy environment and form a relationship. It's not really as good as in person. Are you going actually with a camera crew to these locations and doing like the proper sit down Joe Rogan thing?
Yeah, I mean, so I bring my 3 cameras with me. My soundboard is gonna go in my luggage. Hopefully, fingers crossed, JetBlue treats me well. But yeah, I've been bringing it on the plane and then just setting up in the morning and then finding a place and shooting 2 or 3 episodes on a clip. Yeah,
That's fantastic. I love
yeah.
that. Okay, cool, Nate. So, what are some then big goals for the rest of this year? You guys have just been going since Feb. Obviously, there's probably a ton of stuff on the roadmap. Can you share some of that with us?
Yep. Our next big thing is Black Hat. So it's like the second largest cybersecurity conference of the year. It's in Vegas. And so this is our first big conference where we're doing a very big booth. So we're going from not having a booth at all to now having a giant one and just going all out for this one event in August. So that is our next biggest thing. And then it really is all about the race to the first, let's call them 20, 30, 40 customers, whatever that number is. I think right now there's a lot of noise in the space. There's a lot of companies coming out that are competing in the same area. So it really is who can become the perceived winner in this market. So it's all a momentum game right now. And it's getting out there and getting into as many customers as we possibly can, getting deployed. And that's really what we're focused on right now. Our sales team has been here for a month. So this is how fast we're moving.
Far out. Fun times. Awesome. So, Nate, just wrapping up then, finally, a question that I really love to ask is, let's say that you had a magic wand you could wave over a big problem right now and you could solve it just like that. What would that big problem be?
So that's really funny because on ours, we ask if I could give you back 25% of your time, what would you do? So it's the same question I ask people, but it's solving a problem. So I like the question. So if I'm just being selfish, it would solve the traffic problem in Boston and get me to work in 15 minutes. So that'd be the first one. If I'm talking about a work thing, remove the necessity for me to ever do another expense report for the rest of my life. And then if I'm talking about a big problem, there's so many good ones to pick from.
Yeah, I guess it could be like within the industry. It could be even within what you guys are doing with 7AI. Like if you could, I bet you've got so many big plans that if you could just condense that down, or if you could just fix a couple things here or there, things would move a lot quicker. But the traffic and the expense report is I'm sure something people can relate to.
Yeah, I think I would put another one is just putting another 6 hours in a day. That would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're already squeezing as many milliseconds out of the day as possible by putting David Goggins' morning routine to shame, I think. Waking up super early and getting out the door. I couldn't believe that. Anyway, look, I appreciate you coming on, Nate, and sharing some of your insights. There's some fantastic ones in there, things I've never heard before, so I really appreciate that. And if people are listening and they want to check you guys out, where can they go?
So it's really easy, just AI.com. We've got the 3-character domain name, so it's really easy to find, and everything else is on LinkedIn. You should be able to find everything about us there as well.
Perfect. I'll make sure to link everything in the description. But thank you again, Nate, and thank you
Yeah, thanks
guys
for
very much for watching. We will see you in the next episode.